Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Excited to speak with you about video today. I'm logging in from Miami, out here for a conference. I believe Billy is in Tennessee. For those of you who don't know, Billy Coker is our creative director. Billy, you want to welcome everyone, talk about your background a little bit, about the mastermind that is your creative process?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us again. I am Billy Coker. I am coming from Tennessee live on the spot, and it is not nearly as nice as Miami here right now. But yeah, I've been working with DNA for several years now, full-time as creative director throughout this year. And video is always a hot topic, especially when it comes to advertising, when it comes to content marketing, when it comes to these campaigns. And so when we're talking about equity crowdfunding in general, video is super key in order to be able to communicate with your prospective investors. And I'm excited to go through the deck today because now we get to talk about that first impression on a campaign page, which is that campaign video. And a lot hinges on having a good campaign video in place. So I'm pretty pumped.
Pumped is the word. I am equally as excited. Going to pull up our deck here. You'll have to excuse me if my voice is a little off today. I think I've had 200 conversations in the past 48 hours, and that's being modest. Our content marketing team has put together a fantastic deck, and we're going to be going through the pages here. There's live examples. Everything we say is based on actual campaigns we've run. For those of you not familiar with us, we've worked on over 500 client campaigns to date, over 200 for Reg CF. So excited to be able to share some of these insights with you guys today. And as you can see on our cover page here, for us, we want to be able to look at this as what makes a successful equity crowdfunding video. You've worked with a portal, you've worked with a platform to be able to launch this campaign on your site. You've worked with legal, financial auditors, set up the framework for a great offering page. Now, how do we put together a video to encapsulate your pitch and have what's resonating with investors offline now available to thousands of prospective individuals on a daily basis? That's right, over thousands in some cases. We're driving to our offering page each day for clients. So we're going to talk about the key moments, the key structures to look at the formation of these videos on the campaign presentation today. As Billy mentioned, creative director, wealth of experience. Not going to go into how many years. He gets uncomfortable when I say that, but just understand he's been at the forefront of the agency world in all different capacities and is now taking those skill sets to these equity crowdfunding campaigns. And Billy, thought we could start out. I know this is the thesis of the entire presentation.
Yeah.
Why is video so important for equity crowdfunding?
Well, in general, not just equity crowdfunding, but it's just how people are able to quickly relate with any type of content these days, right? So when you think about video content over the last 10 years, how much it's changed the world of marketing, the world of business, everything. Humans retain so much more information when they're receiving it through video, right? And so this first video, this campaign video is your first impression. It's your handshake. It's your moment to actually connect with your audience for the first time. And so as you can imagine, right, when you are coming together with your prospective clients or your prospective investors, right, that first impression is super important. So I like to, when I start talking through people about their mindset, when they first start getting into this first impression mentality, you don't come off the bat just right away saying, give us money. You have to explain yourself. You have to explain your backstory. You have to help them feel comfortable with who you are. And so this first impression needs to grab the investor's attention. And it needs to give them a really feel good moment to say, okay, I want to keep going and diving in deeper into this opportunity, because the rest of your offering page has a ton of details. So you don't have to cover all the details in the opening video. I think it's important to highlight some of the stronger pieces or stronger points, But if you were to go through your whole company's background and your whole business plan, you might take, 10, 15 minutes to actually get through all that content or get through a whole deck. So it's important to have something that's within the range of about 3 minutes is a really key. And we'll get into those details, because we're going to have these 11 tips to help you create that powerful video and run a successful equity crowdfunding campaign. And so we say 11, right? Because we're going to allude to Spinal Tap a little bit here. And we're not going to 10, we're going to 11. We're going one louder, right? So we need to just pump it up a little bit and give you these 11 tips here.
Yeah. And we searched, there's not 12. It would be ridiculous to say anything more. We weren't happy with 10. As Billy said, we wanted to give you that added value. So this is the definitive 11 that we are presenting here for you today.
If someone tells you there's 12, they're not telling the truth. There's only 11. Yeah.
Disconnect as soon as you hear that. So tip number 1, invest in quality. Make sure your video is high quality. Now, we do tell prospective issuers that raw organic video does resonate. What we're talking about here is the actual quality of the camera, quality of the audio. I myself use the vlogger camera of the year. You may be able to tell the quality is better than many webcams. Look at Billy. He looks amazing. Billy, you use a Fuji camera, right?
I do use a Fuji camera, a mirrorless camera, Fuji X-T3.
Big Fuji guy. And you don't need a huge budget to do this. I mean, Billy, $1,000 can really go a long way when it comes to camera, audio, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and actually, if you're in a situation where you're not ready to invest, you can always rent some of this equipment. Also, the iPhone every year after year winds up having better and better video quality, has great audio quality, especially at that selfie kind of length. So, if anything, the things to key in, like, just make sure it's not bad. And it's becoming harder and harder to actually put out bad video. But even if you have you could take the same camera in different situations and wind up getting different results, right? So like if you're somewhere where you're holding your camera and it's shaky and you're not able to get, like, if there's a lot of wind noise or background noise, those things are going to affect. So when we talk good quality, it's not necessarily having to get like a super high-end camera. It's really just making sure that the conditions you're in give you a high quality video in the end. A quality video, meaning you can hear everything clearly. The audio levels are correct. They have like there's a nice tone to them. There's not a ton of echo. There's not a ton of background noise. The lighting, when it's hitting you, it should be hitting you directly, right? You shouldn't be backlit. The light shouldn't be behind you, things like that. So like if you have your back to a window, you're going to look very dark and you're not going to come across very well. Or if you're exposed correctly, that background is going to be so bright that it's going to overwhelm the video. So all of those things to keep in mind. And so the best thing to do is just play around. Like if you have your iPhone, you go into a place, you may find that the best place for you to stand is in your kitchen, and like that kitchen light looks great. So whatever it winds up being, just go with it. If you have the budget or the time to invest into some lighting or into some production help, like someone locally who knows video production well, it doesn't hurt. But the idea is in the end to have something that's clear and that's quality, and that you don't have any distractions. Getting rid of distractions is key. So bad quality becomes a distraction. Overly produced quality doesn't necessarily help you over just good quality video from your iPhone, as long as what you're saying is on point and there's no distractions.
Exactly. We want it to look clean. We want it to look professional. If you have a $20 million valuation, which is average at this point for a Reg CF campaign, you need to make sure the video reflects that. You need to make sure they say, hey, this company, look, this isn't a production house. Steven Spielberg didn't work on the pitch video. Meanwhile, it looks good. It looks clean. It looks solid. I'm able to focus, as Billy's saying, on exactly what the founder is saying, perhaps being able to cut through different video clips from there. And we'll talk about that a bit. But let's make sure the actual profile portion of it allows the audience to connect with the team. I use these offline, online comparisons a lot. feels like the experience they'd get meeting with you in person at your offices or at dinner, like the yacht club or whatever your setup is, speaking with investors. I believe we have an example here as well too. This is for a live campaign. This is for a campaign that just recently ended, but a great example of video. Just play a few portions.
There are certain moments in life when you realize nothing will ever be the same.
3 minutes.
Experiencing the ability to speak over 20 different languages.
But you can see here, it brings in different product content. Speaking with the founder, this deck will be available to anybody who reaches out to us and requests it. You'll be able to look at some live examples here, which definitely encourage you to explore.
Yeah. And I do want to mention on this particular video, what's great about the Waverly Labs video is that the founder himself is a decent quality video, but then all the B-roll, the stuff that's promoting the product itself has a lot more of that high-end finish and some of that B-roll look. You can see it's integrated together. So some companies have those product videos and those videos they've been working on for their brand, and they integrate them into the campaign video. But a lot of times those videos are done not just for the campaign video. So don't let it hold you back. If you don't have that B-roll footage or that stock footage, you can always get some stock footage online to kind of pump up what you're saying, but we'll get into that a little bit more throughout the deck. But yeah, for sure, you can see the founder in that Waverly Labs video. Very simple setup, nice against that window, framed well, lit well, and you can understand what he's saying very clearly.
Exactly. And if you watch our videos, you know that we like to start everything with strategy. For the video, I still recommend tapping into that marketing strategy. Look at what competitors are putting out. You should know, hey, I'm going to launch on this portal. Here are the top 3 campaigns on that portal. Here's what the videos look like. Here's a few comparables from other portals. But for my industry, or going after similar target audiences if your industry doesn't exist on that portal, and be able to take some findings. As you're putting this all together, you have an understanding of your audience. You can now write a script. Now, Billy will tell you this is controversial. And there's a few other approaches towards it. You see the word outline here. I think the idea is plan first, know where you want to take things. I'm actually not a fan of writing out every word of a speech. I'll give a keynote and I'll get into a game of memorization if I do, where I'll put in the outline. I'll put in, hey, here are the topics I want to hit. If you do a few takes of this, your outline, you won't know where it is in the room, in my experience. But you get the idea. Before shooting, make sure you proofread, make sure you're articulating and using different words that really give your brand the best justice as possible and make it seem as exciting, as investable as can be.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of things across the gamut. Like there are people who like to just riff off the cuff, right? And it can go very south quickly if they don't know where they're going with things. And by the end, you're stuck with a lot of footage that you have to edit together and make some sense out of it. Others will stick to an outline and just riff on key points. And then others will go straight script, even using teleprompters, things like that, to actually read the script and make sure that they say exactly what they want to say. Everyone works differently, and I think everyone has their own approach. Each individual, I leave it up to the individual to make sure that they're hitting that approach correctly. But when you think about what your approach is going to be, a lot of times I noticed that people who are looking for investment, they've gone through their pitch deck quite a few times. So they might be able to just get through the pitch deck or get through those points very easily. But if it's your first time doing these types of pitches or going through a pitch deck or going through an outline, it is good to practice and to have a good sense of what you want to say. So that way, when you finally do say it, it feels natural. The key is to feel as natural as possible, conversational as possible, and just very direct and not. A lot of times, if we're memorizing a script, we might start looking off what's the next point, and you start kind of losing yourself. Or if you're reading a script, that comes across obviously as well. So it's just finding that right balance for you to make it as natural as possible. And sometimes that takes a little bit of practice and getting comfortable with that idea. So.
Exactly. And saw a question here for tip number one. That was invest in quality. Make sure you have even basic level recording equipment, and you'll notice the difference. Then you're moving over to the script, moving over to the outline, capturing what's natural, what's working for you in these offline presentations. And again, making it in a format that is consumable, shareable at that, to potentially millions of prospective individuals. And moving on to the next tip here, talk about the brand story, the mission, the vision. Allow the audience to connect with you, to connect with the entity. Early on in DNA, I was taught that the entity is a living, breathing thing. It's sitting right here next to us. What is the brand? How is that spoken about from the founder here? Share a personal story. Explain the inspiration behind the entire business concept, and really allow the fans, the prospective investors, to be able to see the company the same way that you do. And starting here, a lot of times we'll hop right into problem, solution, use of proceeds, team, but allow listeners, allow viewers to know you before you get there.
For sure. And this is where that connection point is really important, right? So we want, a lot of times people invest in founders, and we find it even ourselves when we're dealing with our clients, we tend to see a connection. Even those strong founders that build those connections with their investors tend to have a lot of the campaign has legs, right? It just keeps moving. They keep building that audience. Tombot here is a perfect example of that. Tom is very connected with the community that he's trying to serve. And so a lot of his investors come from that community. So in that aging community where they're trying to bring tech into to help those who are aging, Tombot does a great job in connecting with that industry. And so he has investors that are coming in who are very bought into the fact that this problem is going to solve something in their industry. So when you are connecting with your investors, a lot of times, we'll get the ones that are not in your circle, but so many of the people in your professional circle will be able to bring investment dollars to your offering. And that requires having that brand story, that mission, and that vision very clear and coming across. So that way the people who are especially close to you in your industry can buy off on the idea and help with investment dollars. And then also in that outer circle, they can easily pick up on something that they hadn't thought about before.
Absolutely. And this is a great example here. Tombot has a link directly to it. Tom Stevens, the founder, is beyond captivating, very successful campaign, and very much attributed to Tom. All these examples, by the way, we're really just applauding the groups that we work with. Tom did an amazing job at being able to tell the brand story throughout all of the different pieces of content on each distribution channel. Highly recommend you look at them as an example here as well. Billy, you want to talk problem and solution a little bit?
Yeah, I got a lot of problems. I'm working on the solutions. But also, a lot of our issuers are facing a serious problem, or they themselves, it's any business, right? You started a business because you have an idea that's going to solve a problem. So when you explain that problem clearly, how does this problem impact the potential investors? That's getting back to Tombot's was a good example, but also this one here, Caddy Kiosk, is another example. What's the problem that's facing potential investors, meaning people in the golf space in this particular case? What is the problem that we're having? It's pro shops needing to be able to push new gear, people needing to be able to try new gear. And so Caddy Kiosk did a really good job of explaining how they're going to solve that problem and what kind of market opportunities that they are creating that weren't thought about. And so they've come up with a solution that puts a new thing in a space that's really well underserved. And they're able to take a hold within their campaign. They were able to get that point across very clearly, and we were able to become very successful. So they did a very unique thing to where, imagine you're going to go golfing and you want to try out a new club. They give you a way to try it out. It's that simple. You right on the course, you can grab the club, you can go try it out, play 18 holes, and then decide to keep it or not. And so in any situation you have your business, you need to make sure that what you're doing is solving a problem that no one else can solve, or no one else has taken the time to solve, or no one can solve as well as you. So in any case, you want to make sure your audience knows that you are at the top of the game trying to solve a problem that no one else has been able to do before. And that's why you should receive their investment dollars.
Exactly. And remember that your prospective investors, your target audience, they perceive information differently. If you look at one investor to the next, so you may be sitting there saying, this is all on my pitch deck. It's on my offering page. But what about the visual learners? What about the audio learners? How are you representing it to them? How are you presenting it in a way that it's really going to land? And that's where the script writing, that's where the outlining, that's where the planning as a whole. Billy, I know you're not a script guy, but the planning really is important. You don't want to say something in 60 seconds that you can say in 10. I may be contradicting myself as I'm doing this, but you get the idea. If I was doing a pitch video, every 5 seconds needs to be there for a reason. The same way, if we're looking at advertising copy, every word needs to be there for a reason. If you're able to talk about the problem in fewer, more impactful words, do so. If you're able to get people to rally behind you on the solution versus just stating, a brief overview of the product and then trying to get to the next sections, you're doing a disservice to the company. You really want this to be an aha moment, not a long-winded one at that, but this is your opportunity to really have that impact visually and with audio around why you're doing this.
Yeah. And to that point, right, one of the things that we see people doing is within an organization or a business, they start coming up with terms to define things that haven't been defined yet. So like if you're coming up with a new solution and you're coming up with all of these phraseologies and terminologies that you use internally that become your own internal language, you have to be careful not to use that in your video, because when you're explaining the problem and the solution, you might be using words that don't resonate well with the audience, right? And so as you're doing it, make sure that the language you're using, like to Jason's point, is very simple and very direct. That way you're not getting stuck in some of your own corporate little cliches or words. We see that happen a lot, to where you get used to describing things a certain way for so long that you forget how to speak English, and so in a way, right? That day-to-day, very simple, dumb it down. Like if you can dumb it down to a 5th grade level, you're in good shape. So that way people can just very easily digest the information, even though they may be able to go higher and deeper into the stratosphere as far as language goes. If you can keep the pitch video very simple, that problem solution can be addressed very clearly, very simply.
Beautifully said. And remember, 5th grade, not 4th. We're better than that. Not junior high.
5th grade.
The whole idea is you want your idea. You want it to stick with the audience, not just to the point to where they get it, but where they can be an ambassador. Even if they don't invest, if they're sharing with their first degree connections, their brother, their coworker, anyone they talk about your industry with or investment advice, they can regurgitate this. So that's another reason why less is more. You want them to essentially be able to repeat what you're saying in this video. Yep,
exactly. And same thing goes for talking about the market opportunity, right? So whatever the problem, how does this problem impact potential investors? We're talking about that. Also, what kind of market opportunity does this problem create? Like, what have you found as a market opportunity, and how do you solve it in a unique way? That, again, explaining that in a very simple way is going to do you a lot of good. So that way, like Jason said, the way to for people to just regurgitate that info, just say that its simplest form without using too many lofty examples or very intricate or not intricate, but language that is just hard to remember. Stuff that we're not used to saying often. You dumb it down, you make it simple and get people excited. That's how they're going to keep talking about this opportunity to their friends and family.
Mm-hmm. And now, I like looking at everything in order. You've been able to get the right equipment. You've put together a script. You've been able to allow the audience to connect with you, as well as highlight the problem, how this is the solution. You want to dive deeper with the market opportunity. Why does this make sense as a business? Not just the product, but what is the opportunity for an entity to be successful in this vertical? What problem is this showing to impact investors? How does the company solve it in a unique way? But remember, going past the product now and getting into the company. My podcast is actually a great example for this. I'll do a shameless plug. If you are not listening to Test Optimize Scale, go to your nearest app store, install it, and check out Balky Nair, CEO, founder of Oscilla Power. Great episode to look at. Communication with your investors is a key takeaway, a key quote, a headline that our podcast producer pulled out from here. And he does a great job at speaking about this and talking about energy, wave energy at that. I hope that does enough to sell it. I would definitely listen to it directly after this and look for ways that you can adopt your brand, your market opportunity into a similar type of framework.
Yep.
So leaning on executive expertise is good. Sharing a brief overview of the leadership's experience. When I talk to equity crowdfunding investors, but both accredited and retail, when we talk audiences, I'm usually picturing 4 to 10 audiences. It's never one audience that's investing. So across the board, I hear team, leadership in responses that I get when prompting the question, why did you invest in this deal? As a marketer, I have intellectual curiosity here. I want to be able to replicate this on future campaigns. Why did you invest? And leadership is always there. So there's a lot of different ways to frame, to present this. I've seen groups bring on leadership specifically for the reason that they will be more interesting on an offering page like this. So how have team members launched, sold, or taken a business public with the initial public offering? How many years of experience does the team have? It definitely stands out. Have a little gray hair in there, perhaps, but it's collective experience. Maybe it's a new vertical. Speaking with groups that are metaverse companies and have years of experience is impressive to me because it's a brand new industry. It doesn't really exist yet from a large scale point of view. So a couple of years could be more than enough to talk about, but mention the experience. The only way to measure is with numbers. Have some numbers in there to be able to calculate it. And what experience really highlights the team's expertise in the field. Be able to talk about this. You want to position it as you are the winning group. No one in the world can do this. No one is going to be able to accomplish the milestones and goals better than the lineup that you see here on the offering page. Think of it as a sports team. Think of it any team that you've seen to be successful, maybe the greatest band of all time, any type of collab, mastermind group. But that is the takeaway that you want investors left with after scrolling to the next section.
Yeah. And then to your point, this Cybolt campaign that we have highlighted here is they did a great job of doing this. So when they did a very strong pre-launch campaign where they brought people to a landing page, to a video before they even ever got to their crowdfund even launched officially. There was an audience that was already bought into the leadership team. And so the video that they put together was really well produced, very high-end production. But that production really relied heavy upon the chairman and the CEO that you see here, Mauricio and Luis. They were able to position the offering, position the company in a way that when the campaign went live, there was no doubt that this was going to be a business worth investing in, and that would actually go far. So when you look at the Cybolt campaign, it did really well. And you can see that the leadership behind that team gave the confidence that this problem that they're solving is going to be backed by people who know how to keep the ball moving forward and see the solution through to the end. So that's important, right? We see so many great ideas, but do the people who are involved know how to take that idea, turn it into reality, and then see it become an actual business or an actual solution that's put out into the marketplace? Yeah.
And Billy, you're absolutely right. This was a very successful campaign. I think it did about 2.5 million in a very short window of time on Republic. Mm-hmm. We have an example here from an investor Q&A webinar that our content marketing team put together. Our content marketing team works on content strategies that live in content calendars. There's short form content with social media, email, content, and then getting into long form, blog articles, vlogs. A lot of these examples are the result of the blog creation process. We'll interview a founder, capture that on video, and take segments of it and polish it up as a vlog. Both are great for distribution, being able to engage publishers and collaborate on future content from there. And we recommend monthly webinars, if not more. So a lot of great video examples in this document. Don't have time to watch them all. Perhaps we'll pull up a few more clips as we have more time here. But a lot of examples for you to dive into after this discussion.
Yep. And so that leads us into tip number 7, right? Create third-party validation. Third-party validation is huge. Jason, ever since I've met Jason, we need more third-party validation on this campaign. I feel like it's always been really important to have some third-party validation, and that could come in many forms, right?
Everything. You want to go to dinner, I want that third-party validation.
Yeah, I want to know that this teriyaki chicken bowl that I'm about to have is as delicious as they say it is. So I ask my friend Yelp. But showcase of clips of investor, partner, and advisor, and influencer testimonials. You can also showcase the things that are going to create buzz in the press as well. So when you have somebody who's from the outside of your company, who's either partnered with you or really has bought into what you're doing, it brings a lot of validation, especially if they're an expert in that industry. So when you see somebody who's in the health space, and they're well known in that health space, and they get behind a product that's in the health space, there's automatically buy-in from all the people who trust what they're going to say. So this is why we have spokespersons, right? So this third-party validation can bring you a lot of traction in your campaign, because they may be sharing it. If it's an individual, they share it within their social media feeds. If it's validation through press, right? So like if something is on Forbes or something's on Inc. has published something in relation to what you're trying to do as a business, that's that validation that brings some clout to what you're saying. And we all view companies this way, right? If a company is just making all these claims and no one is backing up their claim, they can say it all day long till they're blue in the face. But the moment someone of influence comes behind them and validates what you're saying is true, and your solution is going to be an actual good solution to a problem, that's when you see those campaigns skyrocket. So when you have that, like to what the slide is saying here, do they believe in your company's mission and vision? What do they see in the leadership of the team? What do they see in the market itself? And why do they believe it's a strong investment opportunity? All of those things being said by a third party just really helps your campaign a ton. So any way you can get that influence coming into your campaign, you're going to win for sure.
And it's true. If someone asks me about digital marketing advice, I usually start with strategy. But one tip that I always emphasize, I always want them to remember, is add more social proof. Everyone has a bad experience that they've had online. Maybe it was misinformation. Maybe it was a product that they purchased and never received. There's a real level of distrust, not just with marketing, but with the online world, with investment opportunities. So it's amazing how you add a level of third-party validation, and suddenly the offer is a lot more dependable. And the more times an individual hears the same source of information from the more parties, the more they believe it. So stack the third-party validation. Look for testimonials from every investor, every strategic partner, everyone who's written about you, anybody who likes you. Get them saying something about the deal. Yes, the higher you are able to go with thought leaders, dare I say influencers, in other words, broadly used these days. Protein Quick here, as an example, they had a shark. Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank is on their pitch video, on their offering page, saying, hey, this is great. Check out their leadership. Scott Kaufman's amazing. Look at the market. Look at what we did with these other products that are now multi-billion-dollar companies. Look at these comparables and look at how this product doesn't exist. It stands out to me. It should stand out to you. This is something that everyone needs. Invest in it. Don't miss out on the opportunity. I'm taking pieces from there, not to be quoted word for word, but you get the idea. That's the sentiment. That's the feel. If the founder tells you that, it's good. If the founder that tells you that, and third parties and various types of groups to show this social proof, even stronger. You can showcase it in the video, you put in various parts of your offering page, various aspects of your content marketing funnel. The more third-party validation, the better, in my opinion. Yeah. Now, you're presenting to the audience, but you want to make sure there's a strong call to action. I've seen investment videos that don't ask for an investment. They don't even speak to the investor. They talk about the company, they throw the product on, they have some nice elevator type music to finish things off. And that's it. I need to be told what to do. If I'm half awake, scrolling through one of my devices, I click on an investment opportunity, I could be 30 seconds in that video and forget what I'm watching with 10 other things that I'm multitasking. And that is the common scenario in today's day and age, where we're inundated with various stimuli. Make sure it's very clear. Ask for the sale. Have a strong call to action. You could talk about the impact it'll have towards the use of proceeds, compliantly towards the growth of the organization. But don't be afraid to ask people directly to invest in the video.
Yeah, and that's a great point. We find this not just in video, but in advertising, in every situation, even in long form content, in blog content. All of that needs to have a driving call to action. And so when you think about like infomercials when we were kids, right? Call now and you get a second one free. Like all those, like it's a very clear call to action at the end of those videos. And so when we look at what we're doing here in this investment space, to invite somebody into your world is going to be very key at the end. So once they've warmed up to you, you want to and invite people alongside you to be a part of this investment opportunity. So you're looking for business partners. And so if you just talk about yourself and then walk away and don't invite people to be engaged or involved somehow, you're not going to be able to get that investment conversion. So that call to action is very important. And it could be very simple. Like it says here, an outro that says invest in company name on platform name. It's that simple, but it is that invitation to come and be a part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And simple. Remember, go ahead, Billy.
Pretty simple.
Simple as can be. And remember that you want the audience repeating what you say in the video. So whether it's about the problem solution, whether it's about your growth metrics, whether it's about the third-party validation, a lot of the times I'll hear a deal talked about based on who's representing it internally as well too. Oh, that's the one with the shark added to it. Let's say a team member who's not working on the account, have a high volume of accounts live today. That's how they're referenced. Same goes with the call to action. I'll physically hear the words, yeah, we have till December 15th to invest, when that's the call to action, something along those lines in many cases. We're getting the home stretch here, Billy. It looks like we're at number 9, but this is a huge highlighted point. Use strong visuals. I know this is what you're preaching all the time. Use animations and pictures in your crowdfunding video to break the video up and express complex ideas. Again, visual learners.
Yep.
You don't want investors saying things like, I really need to see this. Have it all there for them. You can
CSA
experience is.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of CSA, right? Like when you're seeing something being presented in a way as you're hearing it, the two combine together to leave a lasting impression. And so having just, even if it's like your slide, like if you're having a presentation, so even as something as simple as going through a slide deck, even now, right? We're saying all this stuff, but you're seeing it at the same time. Having those visuals to support what you're saying is huge. Simple animations, even if you have take your slide deck and you animate those pieces, if you have the budget, right, to get into some more, like we saw with one of the other, what was the first video that we saw, Jason? It had very high end visuals, very like high end B-roll. Waverly Labs. Thank you. So Waverly Labs had like the 3D models of their actual product. And even here, Kazoo, who's come to us recently, they came with a slew of brand assets that were really solid. So they had everything already in place and they knew the importance of that visual branding, that visual language. And so having that is an ownability within the space. So 10 people may have the same solution to a problem and they're all looking for capital, but the one who looks like they've gone through the process of naming themselves, branding themselves, getting the visuals that are necessary to differentiate themselves from the other offerings. Like you wouldn't be able to confuse Kazoo with another offering because they have such unique branding, right? Same thing with Waverly Labs. They're very, like, their product is very unique and it's very much their own. So owning your brand and owning your visuals in this space is going to be key. So that way, when they see the ads and when they see the content marketing and they see the offering page, all of them should match up and mesh together to where you get that visual language across. And that's your identity. That's the suit you wear to an investment meeting, right? It's like you just dress up real nice and then you're looking good.
Absolutely. And make sure everything's on brand. Have your brand style guide. Billy's engineered branding processes internally here. And, you definitely don't want it to work against your overall pitch, but being able to show what you would present to an investor at your offices or involving anything about production, being able to really use the visuals in your favor. And there's plenty of image libraries, video libraries to tap into at that. Some that are doing high impact, video that can be used. Pretty impressive stuff. No excuses not to be able to splice in some strong visuals. Not going back on our comment from earlier, this doesn't need to be a 3-month production. But being able to have a founder video, cutting in some different visuals, talk to us for different ways to do this on a lean budget of monetary and or human capital. We can give you different ideas here.
Yep. And this next one here is keep it short, right? Short and sweet is key. So when you're looking at those investment videos that just drag on for 10 minutes, when we can make things concise and simple, right? We want to do that as much as possible. Sometimes you can see if there's a very complex business idea and it requires some of those longer pieces of video content, it may be better to make that 2 to 3 minute video for the introduction and then have some of that other longer form video content or longer pieces of video live deeper within the page. So as they keep going, getting into the offering, getting into your company, there may be things that you need more time to explain, right? But that shouldn't be in your introduction video. That shouldn't be in your campaign video. That should be buried a little deeper into those who have bought into the idea so far and then need to get more information, more detail, more grit down deeper into the campaign.
And it may take you a few cuts to achieve this, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Same with a blockbuster film, and you hear, hey, there's a 5-hour version. That is common, where this may be a 5-minute video, but you're looking for areas to cut. As I mentioned earlier, everything there needs to be for a reason. If they're coming from a social advertisement, if they're coming from a portal email, if they're coming from any type of social media or article, how much time do you actually have from this audience? The majority of the traffic's mobile. They're likely watching it on their phone, but even if they're at their, big iMac desktop, 27-inch, or a laptop, how much space can you actually ask from your audience, and how can you accomplish it in 2.5 to 3 minutes? We've worked on very successful campaigns that do 90-second videos, also 5.5-minute videos. This is a good average to be at. If everything needs to be there for a reason, don't feel like you need to delay launching because of the time length, but definitely shoot for this. Again, everything needs to be important. Here's a great example. Not on this advertisement. I can't speak to that whatsoever. Meanwhile, here is an example from one of our clients, Mete Knights. They brought in over 3,500 investors on their Reg CF campaign on Start Engine. I've also had Dele on my podcast as well, expert on video, does a lot of presentations, but I feel like I'm at his home office here. It is in that shorter period that he was able to really resonate with different audiences. And you could do the same. You don't even need the full amount in many cases. So wanted to be able to show that example to say, hey, some people are able to do this in less.
Yeah, he does a really nice job of keeping things concise and keeping things clear. And again, the production quality is good, but it's not over the top. It's not Hollywood production quality, right? But he does a really good job for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So we're about to hit 11, aren't we?
We're about to. So going back to the full present mode, make it memorable. There's so much thought process of, hey, is it safe to say this? Are they going to move forward? We're not sure. Even if they're attempting to move forward, when we talk about the marketing funnel, it's a small percentage that intend and actually convert. So what can you do to stand out? What can you do to make it memorable? You want to reach accredited investors? They're pitched right and left. You're allowed to solicit accredited investors for different types of opportunities. They have wealth managers. There is so much deal flow. Could always be more quality deal flow. But what are you doing to be memorable? It's likely they've heard multiple pitches for a similar product, if not the same industry. I know we do. We'll hear about an issuer with a unique idea that we've already worked with companies just like them, or have spoken to several others in some cases that day. Maybe it's something new, but there's other groups thinking of it. So what are you doing to stand out? How is this memorable? If you're reaching somebody who's consumed by a few other things at the time, but watching you, how are you going to be remembered? Don't be afraid to get creative. Do whatever it takes so your video elicits emotion. The investors can't stop thinking about you the moment that you're done with the video. You want that fear of missing out because you're so great. The product, the trajectory is simply not something to be passed up. It is a relationship you're building. They're in it for the long haul with you. 5-year, 7-year exit, liquidity event is a success story. And that means, as we get late into the 2020s here, they're still on board with you. Make it memorable. Start out the relationship right.
Yeah. And then we can see that there are different methods, right? Some people go with humor. Like if your brand lends itself to having a humorous angle, that's one way to be memorable, especially if your product is a little tongue in cheek, or, you see things like Dollar Shave Club is the prime example of how a company just made a pitch investment video and it turned into a viral video that made their company a very successful company. That's kind of like a 1 in a million or billion, but a lot of people strive for that kind of success within their campaign videos. Others are, they're not really in a position to do something humorous, but they can do something very impactful emotionally. Just understanding that our future depends on a certain thing, or maybe something that's going to impact others in a way that's very emotional. Some of those things can be worth talking about in your investment video, but also just showing that you have come up with something amazing that no one else has, that also leaves a memorable impression as well. So if you are talking in a way or showing yourself in a way that is going to push that conversation to something that's memorable, that's something repeatable, something they're going to send to other investors, as well as investing themselves. That's where we want to be. So Veer does a great job right here as well, right? Top 5 reasons to invest in Veer. When you get into their campaign, you can start seeing they've done a really good job of with their creative as well, and making sure that there's a memorable conversation going on there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, this is a video that's part of the content marketing, and being able to see top 5 reasons with the founders speaking, controlled atmosphere, subtitles, closed captioning. I was told subtitles as if it's a translation, but being able to have everything highlighted and tap into content marketing theory at that, 5 reasons. People remember odd numbers better. Hey, we have 11, but 5 reasons, and really just looking to make it memorable. Just seeing this title page in the video, standout creative. You want people sharing. Content marketing is about the creation of good, engaging content designed for social sharing, designed for high authority links, getting publishers, influencers, investor groups, investor emails to plug into your content. What better place to point them to than your offering page video? So want to recap a little bit here. It is perfectly in with everyone's capabilities to create a pitch video. We recommend investing in quality, whether that's a third party, an agency, a consultant, or just buying some equipment and producing content regularly. We're always happy to give ideas, even without a formal consulting engagement. We do have those clients that work with us ongoing, but just from an advisory perspective, there's plenty of resources out there for you. Write out an outline, plan it out, talk about the brand, the mission, the vision from your eyes. Who is the company? Who is the organization? What does it look like? Explain the problem, highlight the solution, educate the individuals who are listening, watching, talk about the market opportunity, be able to talk about why this is a great time for this business in the industry, create that third-party validation, have a strong call to action, ask for the business, ask for them to purchase shares in your organization, use strong visuals. Billy gave some awesome examples for that. Keep it short, no reason to go on and on, make it memorable, and crush your campaign with your video.
Yep.
Good recap there, Billy.
That was a great recap, Jason. I felt like I just watched the whole webinar in a minute. It was like that was the concise version of it. But yeah, that first impression, let's make sure that we get a first good impression here. I know one of our audience members, John, is watching, and we're going to be working on his video here. So John, I owe you a phone call. We got to talk today and answer some more of your questions. But one of the questions John had, right, is are we at the Q&A point?
Yeah, let's open it up.
Yeah. So one of the things that John is asking is that the platform he's on, they pull the video from YouTube. And so they put that video there and it's embedded. And so he's asking, should we put a invest now in launch base button? YouTube allows you to put the hot links within the video towards the end. And then, so is it make sense to actually link back to the campaign page? And it doesn't hurt, especially if your video's on YouTube and you're promoting it in other spaces. They're not only going to watch on YouTube. Having that button to click back to the campaign page is great. If they're already there and they're watching the YouTube video on the campaign page, they could just close out the video and stay there and invest. But if you're using that video, it doesn't hurt or help either way to have the button there when you're actually on the page itself. However, it does help if you're promoting that video in an email or in social, or it's being passed around to other people. Having the link back to the campaign page, absolutely do. Doesn't cost you anything, doesn't hurt to do it. So might as well do it. But yeah, definitely. I hope that answers your question on that, John. And I know we have more questions to answer offline as we have another call later today. Any other questions from the audience?
Billy, I see one here. What is the timeline to create a video like this? And what are budget ranges? We can be delicate on the budget range question, of course, but want to be able to show that. And Bailey, I could hop in. Billy, maybe you could answer in addition to this, but I would say 2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks is a good timeline to create a video for this purpose. You may have talent, you may have actors, you may have other pieces that delay this. So it may stretch out. Perhaps the process doesn't begin for a few months to coordinate with different talent agents or things along those lines. Maybe there's pre-planning that goes on before this, but I find assignments stretch or slim down to the timelines that they're provided. So if I were to say 3 months, it's going to take you 3 months. If I say 2 to 4 weeks, you may be able to have something even better as more energy goes to it in that window of time. We generally request 4 weeks. If a client needs to, we could streamline it in 2, allows more time for creative, allows more time for the approval process, different edits, as I mentioned, getting it further and further down. I've seen clients do this internally with $1,000 of equipment. I've seen, I don't want to talk about us as much as agencies. It's typically $5K to $15K for entry level. I should say 5K to $25K for an equity crowdfund video. I've seen hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on this video, but typically there is a very high level endorsement that occurs in that. I would not recommend spending 50, 75K type budgets. Certainly for Reg CF, perhaps for a Reg A plus, if there's a large existing audience already, that's a big projector for us for how much a campaign can do. Billy, what do you think about those timelines?
So I think the time, it reminds me of like my daughter who's in college. She's been given an assignment that she has 3 weeks to do, but she waits till the last minute and usually does her best work. So it's hard. It's like that in a lot of work. If you spend a lot of time developing the script and doing everything, you can be very rigid with your production schedule and get something done, and get a month would be probably at the high end of a timeline. 2 to 3 weeks is comfortable. We've turned things around in a week that are very quick, down and dirty, but that's like special case. We're in a fire drill type of situation. But like you said, sometimes the energy is there to really do something exciting. And it also depends on what the production needs. Like if you're trying to showcase or highlight something in a space where you have to go out and shoot, if it's a product or something that's very, it requires some B-roll and things like that. You need to tell a story. Those take more time, more pre-planning. A lot of times, though, that's the type of footage or content you should be developing for your brand as a whole, right? So like if you are a shoe manufacturer, you want to already have some footage of the process of you developing your shoe for not just this campaign video, but for your business as a whole. So whatever you're doing in a larger production, like we're talking like assets for your brand, assets for your company, that stuff should be evergreen and should go beyond the campaign video. It should go well into just how you are explaining yourself as a company. So to the point, like there's one question here about 3D animated videos. Great. 3D animated videos are great, especially if you're going to use those assets throughout the life cycle of your company. You're going to use them on social. You're going to use them in presentations. You're going to use them in various ways, right? Bringing those 3D animations into your pitch video is great. But if you're just doing some of that high-end production just for your pitch video, what happens is it starts eating into the investment, right? If you're trying to raise 100K and it costs you 50K to do your video, it's not a really good idea. To Jason's point, if you're raising 5 million, that's your goal. Maybe some of that production value is necessary to get the point across. However, don't put a bunch of money into the production that is unnecessary. So it's finding that balance. So we can help in finding that balance. It's all about the message and staying on point with the message. And then we have helped people to develop their script and develop their pitch, finding out some of those key points to pull out, because we use them in the content marketing, we use them in the advertising. And so all of it should be kind of all the same conversation together. And so I think, I don't even remember what question I was answering, but it was like, when it comes to timelines and budgets, just make sure that you are sticking within setting those timelines, but not dragging it out, right? You don't want to drag it out and then not overcomplicate things. And then once you land on your key points, shooting the video should be a day, right? Editing the video should be a few days after that. A lot of it's pre-planning. Animations and graphic slides that are introduced throughout the video take some time as well. So really, you have to set that scope of work. 3 weeks, 4 weeks is a really solid, nice, comfortable place to be. 1 week, you're pushing it, but we can do it. It's definitely possible. 3 months might be a little long. It might be a little overkill. So keep all those things in mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a few other questions here. We're past time. A couple of them are addressed to us directly. So we'll be able to respond to those offline. But want to thank everyone for participating, for coming into the webinar today. If you're watching a video recording this at a later time, it was a blast. You missed it, but glad you're able to check the video content out. For everyone, we'll be publishing this in a week with captioning and a blog article of some other formats for all different types of content consumers. But Billy, want to thank you. You know, the video is often the most shared part, the most powerful resource of the content for converting investors. So really appreciate you hopping on and sharing your genius, being able to talk about the insights from your actual experiences. They say you can't be an expert at something until you've done 10,000 hours, till you failed at it every way you can. Billy, I know you have those learnings, and that's why these videos are so effective. So thanks for taking the time here.
Yeah, thank you. This was a blast. And until next time.
All right, guys, take care.